Games Workshop goes too far. Well, that's the understatement of the decade by Janovich. Games Workshop always seems like they're doing something.
Hello there, viewers. Unfortunately, the Games Workshop legal shenanigans against its own fanbase are not over yet. So here is yet another depressing video where I will be covering their most recent lawsuit in which they have truly messed up big time. In April 2025, Games Workshop opened a massive lawsuit against 281 different sellers from different platforms ranging from AliExpress, Etsy, eBay and a lot of other web shops. I was first made aware of this by the blog post from Spiky Bits, but as you know by now, I always do my research and got in direct contact with several people on this list to get confirmation directly from the source. I got my hands on the official court case documents and a full list of everybody being sued. I went through the entire list and then sorted everything from items that indeed seemed like valid claims of infringements to items that should have never been on this list at all.
So is this cease and desist or is this actually a suit? Because if this isn't, even if it's just cease and desist level, this is so incredibly expensive. Like, lawyers cost money. Like, do people understand this, right? Games Workshop as a business understands this. Lawyers cost money, okay? I'm sure they might have it in retainer. Maybe it's, you know, they get certain actions, certain privileges depending on what they... Sure, okay. I will concede that point. This costs money.
Many of these are just questionable and some of them are just straight up bogus claims. Some items on the list I would consider to be just straight up copyright infringements. The worst offender on the list was probably a website literally called Warhammer 40k shop pretending to be official. And
okay, that's fair though. I think across the aisle, unanimously, if we are having somebody come across trying to... Right, it's the whole Jif Lemon, you know, copyright situation we went over, right? Is this going to infringe on Games Workshop's copyright? Yes. If it infringes on their copyright, that is fair, and I think it's fair for anybody and everybody. To, like, imagine if you had, I don't know, you had miniatures game, right? And somebody, and let's say you named it, I don't know, like Alpha Minis or something like that. Just something off the cuff, you know, off the cuff, right? And then somebody popped up with like Alpha Mini Shop and they're not affiliated with you, selling effectively the exact same products or products that are tangential related, like pillows and phone cases. Would you not be a little upset? I think that's an incredibly like fair thing to get upset about and to even get litigious over, in which we have chat confirming these are actual suits against 281 individuals. This is wild.
Of course, Games Workshop is well within their rights to take action against that. But
sure,
this particular type of scattershot lawsuit is very nasty because by design almost all of the sellers will not be properly informed about them being sued. The time frame to take action is very short and it would be very likely that the emails end up in their spam folder. So this is from the PDF.
Technically, that is not... If it ends up in the spam folder, as far as I'm aware, that's technically not... It's like if somebody filed me a copyright strike or a takedown request, right? Like, let's be fair. If Janovich, right, today said, Kip, I don't think you're being transformative enough. I do not want my work to be redistributed in this manner, right? Even if though you are being transformative, or at least attempting to be transformative, I feel that this is a re-upload. I'm going to issue a takedown request. Hypothetically, right? Dude seems pretty chill. And it goes to my spam folder, and I miss it. I don't get to be mad at him for, you know, shotgunning the takedown and giving me the actual strike. He did, at that point, send me the correspondence. Whether it was in junk, spam, whether I just chose not to read it, that's and sure, at that point you can go into like the courts, and I'm sure it's like, well, what was the intent behind this? Was this negligence? Was this, you know, did he actually just not see it? But that's the illegal proceedings at that point, right? I think it's if the correspondence was sent and it's tracked that it was sent, if it ends up in your spam folder, that's technically not their issue, to be fair.
Document in the email that has been sent out. A lawsuit has been filed against you. Within 21 days after service of the summons, not counting the days you received it, you must serve on the plaintiff an answer to the attached complaints or a motion under Rule 12 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. If you fail to respond, judgment by default will be entered against you for the relief demanded in the complaint. You must also file your answer or motion with the court. So if...
I mean, to be fair, in the US we see this with similarly with like, if you're summoned for jury duty and you miss that letter, and you don't show up to jury duty, don't they come after you? You have to show up on this date and make sure you do things by X and Y dates. That's how that works, to be fair.
If you do not respond on time and miss the deadline, which is only 3 weeks, they will just immediately consider you guilty of all of these charges. By the time they find out...
Yeah, because you don't show up to defend yourself. That's you're complaining that the banana is yellow. You're complaining that the avocado is mushy a little bit, like, right? Like, that's just how law works. Now, to clarify, I'm not defending Games Workshop in this. I think Games Workshop has done a number of things that I do disagree with. What is it? Arc Warhammer, someone really beloved by the community, who, as far as I'm aware, I run afoul of their rhetoric of we don't want new players in this hobby. Look, I have no reason to defend this man, okay? I don't even know who this guy is. Allegedly, Games Workshop did file legal paperwork against him, forcing him to remove Warhammer from his titles and from his channel name. And I guess subsequently, making sure he can't say Warhammer? That is such an overreach of censorship that, like, look, even trying to be like, yo, this is pretty bad, people are gonna be like, well, you're just defending him. It's like, I don't even know who this guy is. I literally have no reason to defend this person. No reason. Okay, I run afoul of his own rhetoric, right? I still will say Games Workshop overreaches in situations like that. In a situation like this, I feel Games Workshop is greatly overreaching. I have a lot of reservations against the company. But we need to make sure that we're being fair, right? Yes, that's how default judgments work. Yes, if that was used as an explanation point rather than a point of vilification, which it seems so far, okay, I'm on board. But this being a point of vilification, this is just how law works.
It is likely that depending on the platform, their online shops would already be closed and their payment accounts frozen. I won't go into the technical details here, but if you want to know how all of that is even possible, you can Google how Schedule A defendants lawsuits work. To illustrate the point, I've already reached out to several people who are on this list. Most of them were completely unaware of the fact that they were actively being sued until I mentioned it to them. This is a completely irresponsible way to protect your IP because lots of innocent people have been caught in the crossfire. Trust me, what I'm about to show you will blow your mind, and ask yourself how this type of lawsuit is even legal.
So okay, here's my question though, from the, like, once we're criticizing the Games Workshop side of things. Why is this public? Remember the whole Mr. Beast lawsuit thing? When's the last time you heard about that? Remember the whole Logan Paul lawsuits, CryptoZoo, Prime, etc.? When was the last time you heard about that? How many times have you heard of after the fact some, like, court ruling or court case that comes out and you're like, I'm sorry, this game had what? But you've only find out after the fact. There are NDAs that can go into legal. So I would actually like a lawyer or someone with legal expertise to weigh in how a lawsuit, you know, how suing can be private versus public, right? And, you know, the Mr. Beast stuff, I mean, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the Logan Paul stuff that's going on is happening, right? We don't know about Logan Paul versus CoffeeZilla other than information that is made public by the parties, right? And by the court and by the judge, right? So why are 281 people's names out there that people like Janovich can find? And this is not me vilifying Janovich, to be clear. How can he find this as public information or information that's easily accessible when clearly you can file suits privately, right? Unless this is just the type of lawsuit, unless this is how it's filed. Look, there's something wrong with this, and there is something grossly negligent about... That's like if Games Workshop for the last Janovich reaction, because I did use the official box, right? A photo of the official box of a Wraith Knight, right? That does go against their community policy. And then they're like, well, we're just going to sue, you know, insert my legal name here. And then somebody tells me, hey, Kip, is this you? It's like... Well, okay. Like, that's such a damaging thing to do, in my opinion.
Let me show you some examples. A very big portion of the items on the list are all just kinds of different stuff that is compatible with Warhammer, but does not claim to be an official Warhammer product. Things like dice, game mats, carrying cases, bases, pencils, terrain, paint holders. These are all marketed as suitable for RPG games like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, and of course Warhammer. I'm of course not a legal expert, but I don't really see how they are doing anything wrong by saying their product can be used or is compatible with these various game systems. As long as they don't claim they are an official Warhammer product, it should be fine. Games Workshop has a very flimsy case against these, and at best only over the use of Warhammer or Citadel in the name of the listing and not the actual product itself. If you thought that was already bad enough, wait until you hear about this particular seller. No Guts No Galaxy is a YouTuber who exclusively makes Battletech content. You can then imagine his surprise when he found out that out of nowhere he was being sued by Games Workshop when he is in no way related to anything with Warhammer.
So what I'm hearing is that allegedly, potentially behind the scenes, if action like this is going to be seen as appropriate for Games Workshop, I'm assuming Games Workshop has already filed legal paperwork and is already suing Battletech. At least that's the assumption that we can come to if a Battletech YouTuber is under fire in a lawsuit for Warhammer from Games Workshop. And if Games Workshop is found to have been filing these lawsuits in bad faith, I want the fullest, beyond the fullest extent of the law, to come back and bite them. I think that that's only fair. Because when we start going tit for tat and legal and engaging in shotgun litigation like this, you had better dot your I's, cross your T's, mind your P's and Q's, or reasonably stop it, get out. You're clearly in the wrong line of business.
The reason he was being sued was for selling a mousepad on his merch store called Warhammer Mousepad. As it turns out, in Battletech there is a mech called the Warhammer. So once again,
wild.
The merch he had been selling had literally nothing to do with Warhammer 40k, and any fan of 40k would have instantly recognized that fact. And if there
So, what about whoops. Sorry, that's just Steam. I thought I had another window open. Let's do a little experiment, shall we? Let's go to Amazon really quick. Amazon. Let's go for Warhammer. So any of these sellers, realistically, on Amazon, which you can find right now, any of these sellers should, for all intents and purposes, be a lawful, legal target for Games Workshop. That's clearly what's being said here, right? Because if they own the concept of a Warhammer, I feel that, you know, their lawyers might need to. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. You can't actually do that. That's not how that works. That's interesting. Right? You see how that becomes double standard? No, Kip, you're not trying to change 40k to suit your own personal preferences. That's what he argues against. Respectfully, I'm tired of people making, 1, exceptions for me, 2, changing the narrative, 3, the 40k community on this is why I haven't really done 40k content for both the good people and the bad people. Do you know why I have my 3 criteria? Like, let's have a conversation about this really quick. My 3 criteria are: I am not a Warhammer 40k fan unless 1, I have been in the game since first edition 40k. 2, I have taken a prestigious tournament, a world or a regional tournament. 3, I have read and or watched every single supplemental material. I have to meet one of these 3 criteria for me personally to consider myself a fan. Now, I have not met all these 3. I don't care if anyone else meets these 3. This protects me because quite literally today, I'm having a dude typing out comments looking like he's on paint thinner, saying about how, you're calling all us veterans poison, and we're trying, we're expecting you to know this. And it's like, I do that to protect myself. Okay. So yes, I, even as a new player coming into the game strictly to learn, strictly to understand, and to even defend points, which I think are bogus and BS, am still running afoul of the community. And then I have the Warhammer 40k community being like, well, I consider you a fan. Cool. Way to take away my autonomy. Both sides of the aisle here at this point have made me feel incredibly uncomfortable, and I'm walking on eggshells being in this fandom. Maybe I'm in the wrong. I came from L5R. I came from Legend of the Five Rings Emperor Edition format, right? We had our local chapter kind of thing, right? We had our local tournament scene. Sure, we had Clan B individuals, but most of them were. I'm the brash one in comparison to people I played L5R with. Okay. I'm the brash and rude one here, as well-spoken, quote-unquote, as people might see me. That's what I come from. When I look into a game, I don't view it as, cool, I have fun for 2 weeks and I'm out, right? I still talk to this day about Legend of the Five Rings. I still talk about the Naruto CCG to this day. I still talk about games like Sonic Adventure 2, Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth, and Halo, plenty of other games I've played for a number of years. It's why I have trouble getting into new things, because when I get into a game, it's an investment. Note, I haven't dropped Final Fantasy XIV. Note, I haven't dropped Warhammer. Warframe. sure, you can argue it's a fairly recent development, but I haven't, right? Like, I want to return to games, but I think maybe having that expectation of Warhammer is just too much. Sure, maybe it's because most of my interactions, because this is my actual job, are online, right? Sure, maybe that's a fault in itself. But, like, maybe I'm expecting too much of Warhammer to expect to want to come into a community and to talk with people who want to be here, who want to enjoy the game, who want to be like, yes, Kip, let me tell you why I like Drukhari. Like, yeah, have you heard about the Webway, right? And then tell me the things, right? It's why I've enjoyed Bricky. But even then, trying to learn about it has prompted, why aren't you watching Arch Warhammer? Why aren't you watching Pancreas No Work? Why aren't you watching Creator X, Y, or Z, right? I can never win with the Warhammer community, right? Understand, this is why I have not done more Warhammer content. It's why I've stopped taking photos and stuff of it, because I'm genuinely uncomfortable in the sphere. However, even running afoul of many creators, right, such as Arc Warhammer being a new player, running afoul of their rhetoric, I will still give my 2 cents, and I will still do what I can to say, this is not okay. Games Workshop, this is not okay. This is egregious. Me showing a Wraith Knight box on stream and violating their terms of service is me showing solidarity for, look, I might not agree with the 40K community, but you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say this is not okay. Not because I gain anything from it. In fact, I'm going to get a lot of ridicule because of it, but because it's the right thing to do. And I think that's the fundamental misunderstanding between me and a lot of other people across many different fandoms. It's the right thing to do to call stuff like this out and defend the people who actively love this game.
Was any doubt, you could have easily found out on the Battletech wiki. I assume they just scraped the internet with something like an automated tool looking for keywords to generate this list, and they did not bother to double check. Or they just assumed it vaguely resembled a 40k Titan without looking at the rest of the context on the website to validate their claim.
I mean, regardless of intent here though, Games Workshop did, for all intents and purposes, hit fire on the litigation.
Just straight up proves how irresponsible this lawsuit is, that they don't even do the slightest bit of due diligence to make sure people being sued were even selling a product related to Warhammer 40k to begin with. And it gets even worse. Not only is the lawsuit frivolous by any means, I'd also go as far as say it strikes me as fraudulent. Let me explain by reading from the official document. Plaintiff, in this case Games Workshop, hired a third-party investigatory to access defendants' internet-based e-commerce stores operating under each of the seller's IDs. So these are the people on the list. The third-party investigator initiated orders from each of the sellers for the purchase of various products, all bearing or suspected of bearing counterfeits of the Warhammer marks, and requested each product to be shipped to an address in the Southern District of Florida. The plaintiff conducted a review and visually inspected the branded items for which orders were initiated by the plaintiff's third-party investigator via the seller's IDs, and determined that the products were non-genuine, unauthorized versions of the plaintiff's products. Anyone with half a brain can tell this never happened.
So I have a query for you, chat. So when does let's look at a Wraith Knight, right? Let's look at a Eldari Wraith Knight from the official Warhammer 40k store. So once again, literally running afoul of Warhammer 40k's community guidelines here. It's the Gurren Mark II, is it? Question mark? Yes. Okay. So hear me out. Roll with me on this for a second. So this is the Eldari Wraith Knight, right? Totally makes sense, right? You know, we've all seen this. We all know that I have two, and I love them dearly. Double Wraith, heavy Wraith cannon, excellent, right? Flawless, even. Now, when does Games Workshop, Warhammer, if you will, when do they go after something like Sunrise or Clamp, right? Whoever holds the IP for Code Geass. I don't know. I mean, considering if they're just using broad strokes, I mean, allegedly Games Workshop might find something similar here. Allegedly, they might find something that they would wish to deal with here, right? I think that Games Workshop might want to go talk to some large anime studio. Oh wait, you're saying that there's a clear legal difference and there's distinctness to this? You're saying that that'd be dumb of Game Workshop to do? Weird, right?
Just no way they have ordered all of these 281 products and visually inspected them on location and then came to the conclusion that yes, every item on this list is indeed a counterfeit of a Games Workshop product. How can all of these be counterfeits when many of the items on the list aren't even sold by Games Workshop? This is just bullshit. So not only did many of these people get unfairly sued, they also get framed by some lawyer who is like, yeah, trust me bro, I checked, when from going through the items it's immediately obvious to everyone that no one has ever bothered to double check this. This is just ridiculous. Of course, I understand that in certain contexts the word Warhammer is relevant when it comes to protecting their IP, but using AI bot scrapers to just randomly
Allegedly using AI bot scrapers, that has not been proven.
scattershot random stuff and sue them like this is extremely harmful. We've already seen this kind of behavior before when they sued a book called Spot the Space Marine that was completely unrelated to 40k. You know, if it happens one time, it can just be a really dumb mistake, but if it happens again and again, we have to conclude that this company is just straight up malicious. They do not deserve the benefit of the doubt.
It's why I keep wondering. I'm like, why does Warhammer, does Games Workshop just hate their players? Because more and more, the answer is quite literally yes, right? More and more, when I look at things that they do, more and more do I feel that Games Workshop hates their player base. And you know, the inevitability is at some point we are going to be paying 250 USD for combat patrols. Like it's the line go up. Like some of the pricing makes no sense at all. Why are boxes of Neurothropes for 3 like $90 USD? And you need, well, you can play 18 Zoanthropes. So you can swat up Zoanthropes into squads of 6, right? So that's clearly $180 for a full squad of 6. And then if you're wanting to go, well, okay, I want to run the full 3 set because I want to be that guy, which, sure, be that guy. 18 Zoanthropes is what, like 540 some odd dollars? We've mathed this out before. It is insanely disgusting and cost prohibitive to a lot of people. Now, even then, I have to have arguments with the community on a number of occasions as well of, look, I bought my product. I bought my Wraith Knights. I bought my Wraith Guard. I bought my Wraith Lords, right? I bought my Custodians. I bought my one thing of bikes, right? Well, people should be allowed to 3D print it. In my opinion, no, not an official tournament setting. If I have to buy the product, you have to buy the product. If I show up and you show up with like 7 3D printed Wraith Knights, kindly look, no, I'm not doing it. Like, sure, if it's in the casual setting, who cares, right? But the expectation is if you're playing, especially at a high level, you should be buying the product. I understand the pricing is expensive. I understand the pricing is cost prohibitive. Absolutely, I will agree with you. But we do need to be fair. One, it's respectful to the veterans who have been in the game since first, second edition, right? It's, well, I guess whenever they redid the models, right? Because they had the smaller, like what, older pewter models, and they redid it down the line. And then we have, the new players like me who come in and go, I'm here to learn. I'm here to be respectful. I'm here to shut up and understand things, right? To learn how White Scars interact with certain movement rules, right? Like, things I enjoy doing. And I'll go, yeah, I'll drop 5,000 on this game. And I still get complained at like I'm this quote unquote woke new tourist that the entire community is against because I'm actively ruining your game. Kindly, I'm going to just do my own thing.
When No Guts No Galaxy found out he was being sued, he contacted a law firm. Fortunately for him, a lawyer was able to get him removed from the list, but it did cost him $900. And
I mean, to be fair, this does, in my opinion, open up Games Workshop to a counter lawsuit. I'm not a legal professional. That would be something that I would not call for, and this individual would have to make sure that they're contacting their legal team about if that is, one, possible, if it's plausible, if it's relevant, if it could just get slapped down.
in this case, he was actually lucky to find out in time and get in contact with a relatively affordable lawyer that quickly resolved the case for him. If he had not found out in time, it could have ended way worse with much higher legal fees. Many people online are now saying he should countersue Games Workshop, but as we all know, jurisdiction differs between different regions, and the official legal advice he was given by his lawyer was just to let it go because it would not be worth it. So yeah, imagine having almost a...
There it is, literal lawyer, like, hey, you could pursue this. It will not be worth it. Swordsman, respectfully, do not. I did actually reach out to somebody with law experience, and that is not correct. I did reach out to somebody who has experience in UK copyright law, and I will ask to please refrain from the UK British phonographic cost thing because the information that has been said has been wrong.
$1,000 flushed down the drain for absolutely nothing. So even when it's self-evident that you have been wrongly targeted, you won't be getting any of that money back. He had to spend his hard-earned cash to get legal representation when he did absolutely nothing wrong, just because the dumbasses at Games Workshop didn't do the due diligence to check who they are actually suing.
Hard agree. You know what? You spent money, you spent time, you spent effort to do the thing, right? You spent effort to file this lawsuit. That is, for all intents and purposes, damning. It's not like well, our bad, man. You know, I'm saying it was just an error. No. An error is filing like, I don't know, saying, hey, we think that this is doing the thing. We would like to have a chat with you. And oh, hey, our bad. Okay, look, we thought this was Warhammer and it ended up being part of Battletech. That's an oopsie. This is not an oopsie.
He has a family with small children, and obviously he would have liked to much rather spend the money on them instead.
Right.
You can visit his channel to get the full story on what has happened. Let me remind you that this is not just about him. There are 100 Etsy shops that had got closed immediately due to this lawsuit, and about 70 eBay stores that has been targeted as well. Who knows how many of these has been unfairly accused and are now suffering financial damages because of this. This can seriously ruin people's lives, and it's crazy.
This is correct. He's absolutely correct here. And it also poisons the well, right? Bungie, Marathon, well, how many of these assets are actually stolen at this point? How many of these things have been lifted from other artists, right? How you see how that will then call into everything else? Well, how many assets from Bungie's Destiny 2 have been stolen? How much from some of their other IPs have been stolen? Even if there is no stolen material to be found, right? Yes, obviously I'm aware of the whole Destiny 2, the other incidents, right? But like, that's the point though. You've poisoned the well now. And going forward, any lawsuit, even if it is on valid grounds that Games Workshop files, the community, new players, old players, veterans since first edition, right? They will all look at this and go, it's Games Workshop being Games Workshop, and it's probably frivolous. Now, even if it isn't frivolous, that is the understanding. This is the power of actions have weight, right? They did the thing. And now they have to reap the consequences of doing the thing, especially if it's done in bad faith.
Crazy that Games Workshop will just get away with it. I know technically many of these lawsuits and cease and desist kind of stuff is coming from third-party law firms that are working for Games Workshop. And perhaps nobody at Games Workshop has even seen this list before it went out of the door. But it doesn't.
I would disagree with that. If not him. If Games Workshop sent these out like as a collective agency copyright kind of thing, right? Where like a collecting agency on behalf of something sends you a copyright claim or strike and it's done in bad faith. And it's like, well, this was the collecting agency. This wasn't me. Something I literally ran into with Epidemic Sound, right? Was very critical on that point. And it's like, okay. No, yeah, we didn't see this list. Why? Skill issue? Do your research? It's your IP? Literally put in the time and effort?
Let them off the hook. They didn't have to hire these lawyers in the first place. They didn't have to attack their own fan base like this.
Correct.
They are ultimately the ones who are responsible for all of this. In the previous videos, I've already covered how Games Workshop is trying to destroy the Warhammer fan community. And if that wasn't already bad enough, apparently now even people that have nothing to do with that now have to be heard in the process. This is just absolutely disgusting and needs to stop immediately. Unfortunately, I don't think it will stop anytime soon.
No.
In the meantime, people need to understand that doing literally anything, even vaguely related to Warhammer, is now serious legal risk.
Yep.
You can randomly end up on these types of lists, and even if you did nothing wrong, you can suffer serious financial damage and can even have your life destroyed. I think this once more proves just how ruthless Games Workshop is, and unfortunately, they don't learn, and things will only get worse. I've already warned the community that lore channels are no longer safe. As I pointed out, lots of channels do way more infringing stuff than the people that got onto this list. They use their official artwork for their thumbnails and content, they sell merch and they are monetized with Patreons and ad revenue. So what should Games Workshop think of that? I definitely would not be surprised if it turns out they are already working on a legal case to shut down all Warhammer lore channels.
It wouldn't surprise me if all Warhammer channels eventually would be shut down. And here's the thing, right? If you download my reactions to Warhammer videos, look, I'm not going to fault you. Do whatever. I just ask that you don't repost them, right? I don't ask that you repost them on like some channel, right? But there is the very real possibility that sometime here in the near future, I will have to just take down and redact all of my Warhammer reactions. It's why, dude, I came into this so excited. I came into this like, it'd be cool to have a Warhammer channel. It'd be cool to just do painting streams and stuff like that. It'd be cool to really kind of sink my teeth in to learn about this, to understand about this. But my interactions with the community aside, right? My interactions with a lot of the community aside, this terrifies me. This will kill your fan base more than any quote-unquote woke Kip reacts dude ever will, right? This is what kills a fan base.
Unless something drastically changes, I think it is just a matter of time at this point. Warhammer is a ticking time bomb right now. And any creator sticking their head in the sand thinking it won't be happening to them is likely going to wake up to a nasty surprise one day. It would be extremely unwise not to take precautions. I'm sorry I have to be a doomsayer, but as unfortunate as it is, I think the hobby, at least the part that engages in content not made exclusively by Games Workshop, will eventually be all but destroyed if this continues. So please share this warning with as many people as you can. That's all for now. Stay safe.
Dude, let's put it this way. Screechers, people being weird, yeah, you can technically avoid it, right? You can technically ignore it, right? What you can't ignore is quite literally Games Workshop going after creators, going after quote unquote, would these not count as fans? Would these not count as fans in more of an aspect than I am, most certainly, right? Like, to completely just have the company behind the game that you're trying to get into. Like, if I was getting into if this was the first video I saw and I was thinking of getting into Warhammer, I sure as hell would get into Warhammer. And I think that that's an incredibly fair thing to have, right? It's one thing for, well, it's just the community. The community, some of them are sniffing some paint thinner, okay? Like, they can't even type correctly, but they're always angry at new players, right? Sure, whatever. I could get over that eventually, right? Especially if, I had that firm base to actually be able to discuss with people, right? What I can't ignore is quite literally Games Workshop shotgunning legal action at people. I could be on this list and not know it, and that's the thing. I could be on this list and not know it, and then 60 days, 30 days, 60 days pass, and then I'm suddenly being all because I showed official artwork on a YouTube video, and I think that's dumb. I think that is absolutely just asinine. Now, obviously, we do have to stay here. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not here for legal advice, and I do advise people, to do their own research, and if they are worried about any sort of legal inquiries and or potential legal action by people like Games Workshop, to definitely seek out the proper individuals, such as a lawyer, legal team, etc., to get your needs addressed there. And I want to thank Janovich for making this video. As it sounds, I'm frustrated. It feels like every time I talk, it's Star Wars at this point, dude. From both Games Workshop and the veteran community at this point, it feels like Star Wars. Every time I talk about Star Wars, it always comes into, prequel's bad. Something back in my day, Waru and the Crystal Star. I'm like, dude, can we just enjoy it? Can we just enjoy, the artistic choice to have a green lightsaber in Episode 6? Can we enjoy this? I feel like people have forgotten how to enjoy things. And when I have had good conversations about Warhammer, it's laughing about people bringing the one Imperial Knight to a 1K point game, right? Or or hilarious interactions of just like, look, Warhammer's entirely RNG based. If you bring enough Imperial Guards during shoot phase, you roll 400 dice in shoot phase at a Be'lakor. Be'lakor can eventually just go down, right? Stuff like that is what fascinates me about the game and why I love it. But every time I talk about Warhammer at this point, it's Games Workshop legal this. It's something new players bad, something I don't believe in your criteria, you should fall into this by my own subjective understanding of this. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. It's like stepping on landmines every time I dive into it. I will enjoy it in my own subjective way. I'm also prepared at this point because of the things Janovich has covered. I might have to pull all my reactions down personally. I might have to pull the videos down, and that's perfectly fine. That affects me objectively far less than it affects channels like Janovich, far less than channels like Bricky, far less than channels like Pancras No Work, and people who put genuine time into this, right? I'm aware of my place, and I'm frustrated, not strictly because of me, but because this is what kills a community. I've watched L5R die. I watched AEG. Daigo Konpeki wins, GG's, IP went over to Fantasy Flight, right? I watched the Naruto CCG die because of Bandai. Bandai of America said, we're going to stop at set 28, Ultimate Ninja Storm 3, which did have several typos, like Uchiha Madara. And then, we're going to make the Power Rangers card game. Who remembers the Power Rangers card game circa 2013? Nobody. Shows how well that decision went. Or I've watched Buddy, the World of Warcraft TCG. It died because Blizzard said, Lamau, we're doing Hearthstone now. You know, what was it? The thing that used to have the card that was like Slime Tiger, the thing that had mounts you could redeem in-game, the old WoW TCG, which I heard was really good, right? But, like, no. Like, I understand what it's like to watch a community just die. I understand what it's like to have people in the community who are just strictly other. We called them Clan B and L5R for a reason, right? Like, I understand it. And I don't want to see this happen to 40K. And ideally, what ends up happening is we all come together. We have the new players and new people like me who want to come in to be respectful, to say, hi, I don't know about this. Can you tell me about this Necron World Eater thing? Oh, why, yes. And that goes down to veterans needing to be respectful. If you're a new player coming in and you're being disrespectful, okay, maybe consider going to a different hobby. If you are a veteran and your entire stance is new player bad, Lamau, okay, maybe you should consider not saying that, and maybe you should just go to your own insular little Hugbox community where everyone thinks that it's okay. Oh, but I'm sorry, you say change is bad, but you're still using the new and improved oval turning rules, right? How oval-based turning used to work differently, and now it doesn't work that way. Yeah, the quote-unquote new woke players, quote-unquote, right? They were responsible for changes like that, were they not? Oh, but I'm sure you still use rules from first edition, right? If somebody tomorrow came into L5R, Legend of the Five Rings, I've talked about this so many times because I honestly enjoy it, and somebody was like, you know what? I don't think Spider Clan should be a clan. What are you predicating that on? I don't know. I just came in. I hear they used to be the Shadowlands, and then Rokugan, the Empire just kind of said, hey, you're a clan now. Okay. That, what? my conversation with that is the conversation ability we're gonna have with that is zero, right? Like, I'm effectively asking why isn't X in the Imperium of Man, right? Like, or you don't think that whatever the Kulix assassins from what was it, Imperial Assassinorum or something like that? I can't remember the actual term, right? But like, they shouldn't be part of the Imperium of Man. They should be their own sect. What am I predicating this on, right? Like, hello? Can we just be reasonable? Can we just be normal about things for 5 minutes? So I've already dragged this out. At the end of the day, thank you, Janovich, for bringing this up. Second, if I do have to take videos down, I will take videos down, because at the end of the day, I can't control what Games Workshop does. And I think we all should be angry about this. We should be upset. We should be angry, because this is dumb. Third, especially if we are going to talk about certain legal things, I would recommend making sure to have, citable sources, etc. Look, I know next to nothing about Britain's phonographic whatever. I've had a brief conversation about it in the past with someone who does have law experience, especially in IP, over in the UK. And I was under the impression that what was stated previously in other conversations I've had has been incorrect or has been misinterpreted in certain ways. I'm not a specialist in this. I would recommend making sure you talk to people who are specialists in this. And you know what? Maybe someone like Legal Mindset would be perfect for something like this. Or another YouTuber who deals in copyright and IP law. That's how you start to address things like this. And I think that once we start to address a lot of these problems, you'll see a better community. And a lot more people will just be like, this is just the weird, whatever, screechy part of the community. But thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. If I'm stressed out and I sound stressed out, I apologize. It's been a headache to deal with Warhammer 40k recently. As much as I can enjoy it, much as I still love my Eldari and stuff, right? Not going to go take an actual Warhammer and smash my minis, okay? That was expensive, and I still want to play with them at some point. But I might be a little more hands-off, because legally, Games Workshop seems to allegedly want to go after anything with Warhammer in the title, thumbnail, or content. Thank you all for watching.